All right, I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes as always.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Hi.
Hi. How you guys been?
Who has a TV in the background? About one more minute. What is it in Python again? No. Okay, so today is gonna be. Oh, you guys don't need to worry about this. You guys don't need to worry about this. Worry about this. Worry about this. Worry about that. Review for week 13, which is Express.js. So as we start using a real world server that's used in different industries, a lot of you probably have questions on how to utilize them best. So please ask questions. What concepts do you guys want me to cover?
Can you cover the solution to the last exercise in class?
Sure. So let's go over the solution in the last class. Did you guys watch the video on that?
I didn't have time to, not yet.
Is there one? Okay.
Yeah, the video solution that I sent out. So that's why I said, like, make sure you guys watch the video solution before we go over it, so that way it's not just redundant. But if you guys still want me to go over it, then I can go over it.
I haven't watched it, so I take that back. I don't know about the rest of you guys then.
Okay.
Let's see.
So any activity you guys want me to specifically go over? Any concept that you guys are feeling behind on?
Let me try thinking.
So this is why it's important I mentioned that you guys come here with questions, remember?
How about, I don't know if this is covered in the video as well, but you know how part of the thing we had to do on Saturday was to take like a JSON object and then put it into, like using JavaScript, put it onto the HTML?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay, we can go
over that.
That specific concept.
First off, also, how do you get that JSON object?
Okay.
Like, and then take, like, I know how roughly to take it and then put it onto the HTML. It's just getting that object in the first place.
Okay. So let's take a look at public. So right now we have static HTML files that are going to exist in our public directory. Public means that these are files that we want the public to be able to access. For instance, home.html, reserve.html, and then we have tables.html. So if you wanted the ability to reserve, that's going to be a post request. So the reserve.html, if you take a look over here, it looked like this when you opened it up in the browser. All right. You guys all remember this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, it switched screens. I don't know why it switched screens. Come on. Okay. So the HTML for that makes sense, right? It's just a basic submit form. You guys should all understand how to use a basic, or not. I mean, you guys should know how to use a JavaScript for it, but you guys know how to create it using HTML and CSS, right? And Bootstrap. There's no questions about that. So the issue then is, how do we make a request to our server side using Ajax? So you guys already know how to do this part, which is that when someone clicks on the submit button, there's an event listener. It takes all the information. So we use jQuery because this is client-side JavaScript, right? And what we do is we put that information, get the value, and trim to take out any white space. And we've done this before. And we put it into properties of an object. So the object is going to be called news reservation, whatever you want to call it. That makes sense, right? News reservation. Someone has like a blow dryer in the back. I think it was Sarah, so I muted Sarah. So we make a post request using the ajax.post. Now, you could do and then do the entire Ajax request, but jQuery makes it really easy to make post and get requests. So you can actually just use the post request. What that does is it says, okay, tell me the URL that you want to go to, and then tell me what data you want to send to it. And then it has a callback function. Right?
Okay.
So the route or the path that we're trying to go to is API/tables. You might be wondering, well, what about the rest of the path? Don't I need the rest of it? No, because again, you're accessing this from localhost. So if you're just saying localhost, then it automatically prepends that because it's a relative path.
Okay.
Right? From there, we pass the data. The data being passed in is view reservation, which is the object that we got the information from. The information is coming from this form. When we click submit, you guys have done this before in the API weeks, where you put the information inside of an object, right? And you send that information. So we do that, but now we're doing it to our own server. So we also have a callback function, and this is going to get executed once this post is done. So when the data comes back, we display something with that data, right? So let's take a look at what happens here. So when we do a post request, the post request only happens when we click on the button.
When you click on the submit.
Correct. So when you click on the submit button, it's going to go to the post path. So the route for this is going to be API/tables, right? So let's go to routes. So this is going to be HTML routes. Let me go to, is it going to be app.get? No. So none of these actually match. So it's not an HTML routes. So this is going to be under
API routes?
Yeah, so we check under API routes. And what do we see? Is it going to be under app.get?
No, it's under post.
It's going to only be under post. Now, is it going to be on API/tables or API/clear? According to what we see over here.
It'll be under tables.
Yeah, because again, the path has to match the route. So the route that's going to handle it is going to be this, because this matches this,
Hmm.
right? And this. Oops.
Okay.
So post request with this matches this. Okay, so we sent, what did we send up?
New reservation, that object.
We sent this new reservation object, right?
Hmm.
So it takes that object and what is parsing it on the server side? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how does the server know how to read that data? Where does it read it in?
Isn't it body and you have body parser?
Exactly, in rec.body, and you have body parser. So if you go to server.js, body parser exists as middleware. Middleware gets read first, and then it passes that data to your route. So it passes that to API routes. So it passes that into rec.body, right? So we push that information from rec.body into table data.
Hmm.
And then what we're doing is we're saying, okay, response.json, true. All we're sending back is true.
Hmm.
If it's being pushed into waitlist, then we say false,
Hmm.
right? So there's just a one way of doing it, right? If you want to do it a more complex way, you'd send back more relevant data. So now you have this callback function that's going to do something. Now it's just going to be true or false. So if data means if true, then say, yeah, you're officially booked. False, say, sorry, you're on the wait list. And that resets all the values.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any questions about that?
So I have a question. I'm still a little bit shaky as to like I kind of understand, but still like do we have two post requests, right? One from the client side and one on the server side?
No,
And
both post requests are from, none of the requests are being made from the server side. It's only client side that's making requests.
okay. So why did we need to separate it into like the first request posts it to the route and then the second post request does the puts it actually into the body? Why is it into two separate ones?
Wait, where's the separate ones?
Like you had the original one in the HTML file in the reserve
Mm-hmm.
HTML, right?
This is a
There was a
post
post
request.
request there.
This is a post route.
Okay, so this is not this one now is not a post request then. Okay.
Yeah, post. This is making the actual request. The client side is never taking care of. Well, I mean, I guess you can do internal routing, but you're not making requests. I mean,
Gotcha.
you're not handling requests here. You're handling just sending the information. You're just sending information to make requests with from the client side,
Okay.
right? Server side is handling what to do with it when it gets that request.
Got it. Okay. Okay, makes sense.
So that right there, the app.post, that's what the server is doing to that post request?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is have you guys actually whiteboard the whole thing so it shows the process by which all of it goes.
Hmm.
That's going to be super important.
Yeah, just because the process also is kind of like, where does this goes where, that goes where,
Yeah. Actually, why don't we do that now? Hold on. Let me put on some pants. I'm wearing shorts, but I don't know if that. Yeah, you guys don't care, right? Just shorts. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see though. Can you guys see it? The whiteboard?
It's hard to see, Omar.
Oh, it's hard to see. Okay, shit.
Yeah, I can see the whiteboard, but not the stuff on it, you know?
Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's not gonna work out then. I was gonna whiteboard it, but I don't think that's possible. And online whiteboards suck. You can't draw. It's just so The process by which all this works is essentially the server JS runs, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve. I'm going to go to nodemon JS. Oh, okay. So I go to localhost 3000. What is it running on? Oh, 8000. It's running on 8080, sorry. Okay. So you guys all see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first thing that happens is the server JS runs,
Mm-hmm.
and then what it does is it's going to go through all of these, right? So when it's running, I haven't made any requests to it. As soon as I go to localhost 8080, I made a request for which route?
For the slash.
For index.
Yeah, for the root route, right? So I go to these routes because these are all inside of here, right? When you require files, they now are being basically imported into this file. So I now have this file imported in here, this file imported in here. All right, so if you go to API routes, you see API/tables, API waitlist, API tables, API clear. We're not using any of that right now, right? So then we go to the next one that was required. Okay, and then we imported this, HTML routes. Okay, let's take a look at that. Tables, reserve, oh, asterisk. So if no matching route is found, then default to home. Cool. All right, so that's what asterisk does. So this does res.send file, and then it does path.join for public home HTML. So let's go to public home HTML. So it's going to send this file. And that's what you see over here.
Okay.
Right? If we take a look at this now, if I go to view tables, it's going to tables, right? So it takes me to tables. So then it's going to hit the server. So that's just a simple GET request. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not making a post request. I can just put that in the link. So if we take a look at our home.html, this is just an anchor link that goes to tables, right? And that's automatically a GET request.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So assumably, if this is just getting view tables, it's probably going to mean HTML routes. Yeah. So then it would say app.get/tables. So it knows how to handle it. So what it's going to do is send back tables.html. So let's take a look at tables.html. And tables.html looks like this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also see some JavaScript. Right? So this JavaScript, what it's doing is it's making a GET request, and it's making it to API/tables using the method GET. So we could have done this. It's another way of doing it. And you can just pass in the URL.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's another way of doing it. This is just a longer way of doing it. Now, what that's going to do is if you go to API/tables, right? So if I go and let's see, what's going to happen? So this is a function called run table query. There's also run waitlist query. So these are both functions, and then they have function clear table. So run table query and run waitlist query, when do they run? According to this logic here.
When
Is
they
the page is loaded?
type
Exactly.
the tables, table URL.
Well, these are going to get executed as soon as this page is loaded, right?
Mhm.
They're immediately invoked.
Okay.
Do you guys see that?
Mhm.
There's nothing that's saying, cause this to run. It's just we're just calling these functions, right? As soon as this page loads, right, it's going to call them. Now, what happens is each of these, all they're doing is making GET requests to waitlist and to API/tables. That's all it's doing. And then it's just putting that information on the client side. Right? And you guys have done this before with your API, when you guys were working with APIs.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
So,
right.
so what it's doing is it's going to API/tables. So you go to API routes, API/tables, and you see this is a post. So we're not doing that, right? We're just getting GET requests. So API/waitlist and API/tables. So all it's doing is get the table data and the waitlist data. Table data is going to be the data that's inside of table data. So let's take a look at table data. Oh, look at that. It's just an array of objects. Waiting list data, same thing.
Mhm.
Right? So it's just sending that information back. And that's why you have this.
Okay.
Now, what we can do is we can clear table. Now that is actionable, meaning that if I click it, it's going to clear the table, right?
Mhm.
So let's take a look at clear table. So we go to our tables at HTML. We see a function called clear table. And what it does is it's a post request. And so this post request is going to execute. And it doesn't have a callback function. It doesn't seem to need to. So what happens is you have a button that says clear. So that's what we did here. We had a clear table. And anytime you click on it, it's going to run this function called clear table. So it makes a post request to clear on API/clear. So let's see what happens there. So it makes a request. So again, it's the same concept. You go back to the route. And which one of these do you think is the post for API clear?
Right over there, the one that says app.post.
App.post/API clear, right? So what all this is doing is clearing the arrays of data.
Omar, is the clear function the only place you call for Ajax call in this whole project? Ajax, I
No.
saw your .ajax.
Okay, so it's a good question. So it seems like we're only using Ajax here, right? But we're actually using not just, it is in multiple places, right? This Ajax.ajax.ajax. But this is all just a long way of writing Ajax calls. If you go to reserve, it says .post. This is actually an Ajax call. It's just a shorthand function in jQuery that makes it easier to write Ajax calls. So
But if you, like for this one, like the .post, if you don't input any variable, like if you don't input new reservation, you just want to log out all the tables, I think it's not going to log out unless you use .ajax.
Right. No, you need to do an Ajax call, right? So tables, you do an Ajax call, but you can do this a different way, right? I can do .get, and I can just pass it. Right? That would be the same thing as this. This is a shorthand method of writing this whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all. So different ways of doing the same thing. And you guys, again, you don't need jQuery in order to make Ajax calls. JavaScript, this is all in JavaScript, native JavaScript, but this is an easier way of writing them using jQuery. jQuery gives you several methods to write the same thing in different ways because all it's doing is to make it easier to write the same kind of things. You're performing the same kind of functionality, but with easier to write syntax.
Mm-hmm. Oh. I also have another question.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose for this exercise, like, because I was wondering, couldn't you just do all of this like without connecting to the back end? But I also so I was thinking maybe the purpose of this was it to, to help with like the persistence of the data, and also just we might need back end for something else as well.
Yeah, the whole point is like you could have done all this on client side, right? But you want to be able to share that information, right? If
Okay.
you do this all on like client side, like yeah, you could, but only one person would be seeing that same information over and over,
Hmm.
right? So if you want everyone to see that same information, you want it on the server side.
Oh, I see. So like everyone, no matter who they are at different places, could see that.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Great. Thanks.
And Omar, do we have access to the self files, like the solution?
Did the TA not push it up?
I have another question too.
Oh, you guys might not have had access to it because the
No.
SSL certificate
No,
was.
we don't.
You guys don't have access to this?
I don't think so.
I didn't try pushing or anything. I mean, I didn't try pulling or anything. So. I'm
Well,
not sure.
the SSL certificate was earlier down today, but we fixed that. So try it.
I'm trying to pull right now. Let me see if I.
Let me double check. Hold on. It should be up now. Yeah, it's up. Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, Aaron pushed.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Omar, so when I was in class, basically I was trying to put that the JavaScript that you have in the HTML file, I was just trying to put it into a separate file and just include that file in the page. And then for some reason, it wasn't finding that file. I was just giving it,
Right, you have to send it back, right?
Say again?
You have to send that file too, right?
I have to send it.
Yep.
But if I want that file to be like on the client side, I have to send it. How would
Well, you just have to have it exist in public. We're gonna get the static routing in Express pretty soon. You guys haven't used it yet, but if you want to take a look at that, here, use static. This is actually built into Express.
So you couldn't just include with the script tag, you have to do something else?
Yeah, because otherwise you don't have access to it, right?
Oh,
We purposely send back the HTML file through the Express server
gotcha.
on request. But we can have our dynamic server also act as a static server. So that's where this comes in. So that means anytime you need a static file, it's going to exist. I want it to exist in public. And so anytime you need to access a static file, you just do, oh, okay, this is going to be in static. So just link to it from your HTML, and it'll link to it correctly. We just haven't gotten to it yet.
Got it.
But here, I can show you in Travel Secure. Where the hell is it? OSP. So if you go to Travel Secure, you'll see app.use. Where is it? Static over here, line 44. Do you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So that means I put all my static files in there, anything that's client-side facing. If I go to public, you'll notice that I don't just have my like my regular files. I'll have like CSS, images, JavaScript. And this is client-side JavaScript. And this is all accessible from the client side
Mm-hmm.
using Express static routing.
You have to do that for like every file you use?
That's static. But it's super easy because all you have to do is like if it's a static file, you don't have to do anything. You just put it in that folder called public.
Oh, so that, okay. So the folder is static.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then Express says like anything that's being requested from there, because because app.use static is middleware. It'll go through that first before it goes to any of the routes. We just haven't covered that yet. That's all.
Cool. Cool. Okay.
Is there a place itself? So is there a place we could better understand how to structure the folders, how you have it? Because
Yeah, here, Travel Secure. That's why I did this. So if you go to instructor resources, I posted Travel Secure.
right.
Okay.
And that's how you guys should be structuring your application for Project 2. And in general, if you guys are using like an MVC application.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, no more barking.
Is there a plan to
I was
cover-
mute.
Somebody
It's
else is
not
done.
me.
Matt, no more barking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my dog. Hold on, let me mute.
Omar, was there a plan to cover SQL, other things like the joins and things like that?
We could. Yeah, we can do that. So I think that's really important. Let's go to joins, SQL joins. So you guys have learned how to use SQL in like a very basic way. But one thing we haven't covered is combining different tables together in a relational type database. So this is really important because no matter what company you work for, you're probably going to have to manage some kind of tables or something like that if you're working on the back end. So you guys learned about the primary key for IDs, right? So let's say that you have a table and it's called, customers table, another one called orders table. And, it says order ID and customer ID, but usually it's just called ID, right? And you guys know how to do that, right? That's auto incremented on its own. No questions there on ID, like ID here, ID here. But one thing we haven't covered is foreign key. Foreign key means that you can have relationships between tables. And that's important because that's how you can make queries happen to combine different tables together or to combine queries together. So for instance, if I have a customers table and I have an orders table, in this case, I want customers to be able to have orders. So if I want to get all of a single customer's orders, I might query multiple things inside of here. So customers have a has many relationship to this orders table. So that relationship is explained by using this customer ID. You put the foreign key, which is the primary key of another table, into this table. So if you think about it logically, it makes sense without thinking about any programming, right? If I'm a customer, am I going to have many orders, or is an order going to have many customers? If you think about how your data is going to be structured, it's really going to be like, it could be both, but it's generally going to be a customer is going to have many orders, right? Like a customer can have more than one order, over time. So that's how we're going to structure our data. So what you do then is then you can put the foreign key of customer ID, which is going to be the exact same customer ID. And whenever you generate a new order, a customer ID also has to be generated, right? And that's going to represent the customer that gets created. Or sorry, the association of the order to the customer when it gets generated. So the customers, they probably already exist, right? So let's say that you have a restaurant, and you have all these different customer names, and I don't know, it's like an Italian restaurant or something, and these customers have been coming in for a while, and you get their names in, right? Let's say this is like the third time Alfredo's come in. So Alfredo's already been existing when she got generated. she doesn't necessarily need to have orders, right? She can just be a customer and then she can just leave, right? But when an order is created, it needs to belong to a customer. So that's why we have this order that gets generated, and then it has belongs to relationship with someone like, Ana Trujillo Emparedados, I can't read it, Emparedados y helados. So you have Ana Trujillo, and then she is customer number 2. And she might have multiple rows in the orders table, but only one row in here. Because a customer can have multiple orders, right? So fist of 5 on understanding that concept, by the way.
5.
Let's actually write that down in the chat. Well, how do I go to my chat?
Right there on your Zoom window in the bottom corner.
Right here?
Look on where you see home. Isn't chat on there?
Oh, it is. Yeah. This is chats between other things, though. Hold on. I think it's in this page right here. It was on my other screen. There we go. Now to go here. Okay. Okay, so you guys are doing pretty good on this. Nice. Cool. All right, so we have these relationships between different tables, but what do we do with that? So what we can do is 3 different kinds of joins. Well, let's just go over a basic join right now instead of going all the different joins. The simplest kind of join, which just means all the data from both tables where they match together, right? So what I want to do is see all the data that has a customer ID that also matches the customer ID over here in the orders table and put that information in a query. And that's super important, right? Because let's say that you want to get some reports in for, how many of these customers were actually ordered or something like that. Then you want to do something like that. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to say select orders.order ID, customers.customer name, and orders.order date from orders. So get all these different columns and inner join customers. That just means join this table with this table on orders.customer ID. So orders.customer ID is equal to customers.customer ID. So basically you're just saying join these 2 tables together, get these columns only where the customer ID here matches the customer ID over here between the 2 tables. So if you run that, and it gives you back all this information. So that's a simple inner join. And then there's also like left join, right join, full outer join, but I don't want to really confuse you guys too much with all of that. The basic one is the inner join. So it returns the records that have matching values in both tables. So you're saying, okay, if I have data in this table that matches this customer ID, this primary key with this foreign key, and wherever the numbers match up, I want you to give me back all that information. And that's it. So it's not too bad. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
We'll be doing it in a much easier way using models with SQLize. But I think that's important to understand just as programmers in general, or like as a business analyst. And also check out this link I sent out for awesome web developer portfolios as you guys are making web developer portfolios. All right, more questions. Come on, come on. Told you guys, be ready with questions.
I had another one about. This is back, not about Express though. It's about prototypes.
Okay.
So my understanding was that basically the time that you want to use prototypes is when you have like user generated objects, I guess. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but basically to avoid having to waste your memory, right? That's why you use a prototype in that case. Like, is that correct? Is that the
The
only
prototypes have
time?
multiple ways. The reason we use prototyping is that there's a difference between different types of functional. So now that you guys are getting more advanced with JavaScript, there's different ways of using JavaScript. There is the old school object-oriented way. Then there's functional programming, and there's procedural programming. There's other ways of doing it, but these are generally like the big ones. And usually the better way of doing development is with functional programming with JavaScript. And then the second best I would say is object-oriented programming. And most of the time you're going to see with JavaScript functional programming, but then a lot of the times you'll also see object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming means that everything has an object hierarchy and everything is basically inherited from other objects. Functional programming means that everything is wrapped in a function and you execute through using functions. And that's what you guys are going to see more and more as we go towards React. And I'll explain those differences as we go through it because it's pretty tricky. And it's more of like a mid-level, senior level concept. But with prototypes, that goes very much into object-oriented development, where everything is an object and you're trying to essentially put things into a hierarchy where everything is then inherited from other objects. So prototypes are just ways of structuring inheritance of objects, meaning that I want to store something in my prototype, and then it's prototype's prototype. So that way I have a chain of objects that I can then access information from. What you're talking about in terms of efficiency is when it talks about methods in prototypes. So prototypal methods allow you to, when you're instantiating objects using constructor, instead of putting that information in the object when it gets constructed, it would instead be stored in its prototype. So all objects then point to the object's prototype when using a method as opposed to the object itself.
Gotcha. So basically, okay, prototype, like a shortcut in my mind is just use a prototype when you're dealing with objects.
Yeah, objects, and object inheritance. When you're using object inheritance, you're going to be using prototyping.
Gotcha.
Omar, I don't know if this is not on the same topic, but so I was reviewing modules today, and I don't know how I came across this topic, but somehow I ended up on APIs and Node event loops. Node event loops. Did we cover Node event loops?
We haven't covered the Node event loop, but that is more of a more advanced topic, but it is important towards the end. The event loop is essentially how Node works, or how JavaScript works in general, actually. Here, if you guys are interested, no, I'm not. I'm still not going to send that to you guys. It's too complicated right now.
Yeah, I looked.
It's too complicated right now.
Don't article, and they're all confusing.
Don't worry about it right now. I'll remind me towards the end of the course, and I'll go over it. But I don't want you guys to go down the rabbit hole right now with too many things.
Okay.
We're just.
Can you go through the routes, like how you put like different thing into a separate routes file, and the other one are different? Like what should the structure look like for an app?
Well, the structure for an app should look like which repository that I've been mentioning. For project 2, what should it look like?
Sent it on Slack.
Like what?
You just sent to me, like you had just mentioned the travel one, right?
Travel, yes, travel secure. So let's look at travel secure. So this is how I structure applications in production. So let's go to travel secure. So let's take a look at this.
That was kind of my question. Could you briefly mention what each thing is? You know, I can certainly go through it and understand it. I was just curious, briefly mention what each folder is for.
Yeah, so we're not going to cover views, models, migrations, controllers, config, or bin. Well, bin. Now we'll do bin. All right, so we'll just start off where what we understand. Server.js, right?
Did you ever send this link? Travel.
Yes, I actually mentioned it earlier in this chat, actually. Remember when I said it's in instructor resources, and then I pointed right here?
Okay.
Okay, so just to be clear, my questions were on the folders that you're not covering. So I understand the concept of the different JS. I just didn't understand these other folders.
Okay, yeah. Controllers are going to be this coming week. Routes we're going to be doing more of. Models and migrations we're doing the last week before. Views we're doing this week.
Okay, so and then the routes were like you kind of went through earlier. That's where you put kind of the different. Actually, what is the routes folder exactly used for?
So check this out. You have server, right? Yeah. Now, you have your server.js and you have your routing, right? We've done some separation of routing. You see this routes in the routes folder?
Yeah.
Right? So we've done step separation. You have routes in their own folders. I take it a step farther and I say, okay, there should first be a routes file, right? Because that's what Rails does. And I like the way Rails does it. So if you take a look at the routes in here, this routes file, and again, understand it as a concept because this could change over time. And this is just the convention. This is not mandatory now. This is all just a convention, and I'm explaining why it's good to do it this way. So if I have all these different routes that I need to access, and as I scale over time, I'm going to have hundreds of routes or something, right? Let's say it's a huge application like Facebook or something. Then what happens is I need to be able to map these routes to the appropriate routes file. So I have a singular routes file that just does that. It routes to the appropriate file in the routes folder. So every time I go to like one of these routes, it's going to say, okay, go to that routes file, go to this routes file, go to that routes file. And what it does is it prepends each of these automatically to each file. So that when you go to the file, let's say I go to users, right? So for users, it says go to the users routes, right? So we go to the users routes file. So we go to the routes folder, go to users. And notice that it doesn't say users before it in any of these routes because it automatically prepends it to it. So it's writing less code, right? So I write less code, and so it's just sign up, sign out, login, sign up. So these are routes, and they're going to go to their appropriate controllers. The controllers are going to handle the logic, the functionality. And you might be thinking, what the hell is router? Router is just a smaller version of Express. It's just part of Express, but only when you want to do routing. So instead of us having to reinstantiate Express, which is a lot bigger, we just use whatever the part that we need. So we only need routing. So we're just going to instantiate routing and use that.
If you had like an application that lets users like create their own pages or something, then does that mean that that would just add more routes in your routes file, or?
Oh, if they have to create their own pages, then you'd have dynamic routing. And it wouldn't be, it would be basically using, remember we talked about using that in Express, that colon?
Right.
Each one would just be its own dynamic ID.
Got it, kind of.
I mean, it's a bit complicated, but it's essentially, you would be generating a route, and then you would be using that route to then go to. Like, you know the parameter that goes in. Anything that comes in at, let's say, pages, and then everything after, you know how to handle it from there.
Okay, so it would have like types of routes.
Yeah. I mean, that's way more complicated.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Is this starting to be a little bit easier, or are you guys more confused now?
It's better. Definitely better.
Yeah? Not too bad? Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys were able to take advantage of this. Keep taking advantage of me in all the right ways. This is good because we're starting to get more and more difficult. So
Omar, I have a
Yeah.
question. I'm sorry.
no, please ask.
So we have two more. We have two more review sessions. Are we doing one next week? Since I know next week's the holiday weekend and we don't have class Saturday or Monday.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to do it on a Sunday, and a Sunday. So it's probably not gonna be next Memorial Day because then it's just gonna be wasted. Like you
Okay,
guys.
so we'll skip next Sunday.
Yeah, so it'd be like it's gonna be 2 more review sessions, but it's just not gonna be next Sunday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Great.
All right. Well, keep thinking of questions for next review session, which won't be next Sunday. So if you guys are confused or anything like that, make sure you guys write these questions down, because that way I can just go and like just handle it, and like I can show you guys and like really cover them and everything like that.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see. Any questions in here? Thank you. See you tomorrow. Okay. Cool. All right, everyone. See you guys on Monday and Tuesday.
Yep. I'll
Thank
see
you,
you
Omar.
around. Thank you.
Yeah.